What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Pub Sports Radio Baseball Show. My name is Jose Bouquet, and of course, joined alongside me is my good buddy Andrew Santangelo. Andrew, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. A lot of exciting news, breaking
A
news to dive
little
in.
quiet. There we go, Andrew. I got you.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. I got you. We'll say that again. How are you doing, Andrew?
So I'm doing very well. It's a lot of breaking news, a lot of news coming out here in baseball world from the Hall of Fame to some big signings in baseball. I'm excited to dive into this. But how you doing, Jose?
I'm doing all right, Andrew. Let's get right into it. You know, a lot of breaking news. We'll give you a little quick 30-minute or so recap of what's going on. Even if you might not have heard the breaking news coming out of today, as just announced about 10 minutes ago or so, I think. I don't know. The Hall of Fame, the Baseball Writers of America have elected nobody. Nobody is going into the Hall of Fame this year for the first time since 2013. Here are the percentages. I actually have them up for us. Let me pull them up for everyone. Here you guys go. Here's the percentages, final voting numbers for this year. Kurt Schilling, as you can see, the top vote getter at 71.1%. He was the guy that everyone kind of thought might get into this class. No one gets elected. He has the baseball resume for it, but he talked his way out of it, as we'll talk about here later. But, no one gets in. This is, as everyone says, baseball is going to baseball. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
First initial thoughts when I saw this come out, I was not surprised. I know Kurt Schilling definitely had probably the best case. I mean, we all know how the voters have viewed the steroid users in the past. I think nothing's really going to change from time to time. It's still the same people voting. So obviously nothing a whole lot different there. You kind of look at some of the percentage, or not percentage, the numbers here. Bonds only goes up 1.1%. Sammy Sosa goes up 3.1%. Roger Clemens only changes 0.5%. So I think nothing really changed here. That's why it wasn't really surprising. Like you said, there's a lot of speculation that this was going to happen. Kurt Schilling probably had the best chance, but like you said, he talked his way out of it, and that's what you're going to get when they look at this stuff. They look at how did you perform on the field, how did you treat the game from integrity wise to cheating the game, and also goes into that is how do you perform off the field as well. And that's what you saw here. And that's what you see with Omar Vizquel dropping 3.5% with his off the field issues that came out in the past as he kind of continues to deal through that. That's why Pete Rose is still not in the game. So they take all of that into account, and nothing really changed here. It's just another year of the same kind of procedure. And that's why, to me, this was not surprising. I think surprising was some of the biggest jumps. Scott Rowland jumped 17%, and then Todd Helton jumped 15%. So I think those two were kind of surprising for how much they jumped from last year's ballot. But overall, not shocking to me, and nor I don't know if I disagree with some of it either.
Okay, yeah, this is. I think this is where we disagree the most, actually. Now, I used to be right there with you. No steroid users in the Hall of Fame, blah blah blah. And then I guess I started becoming older and realized, why not, Andrew? This is a museum of baseball. Let's put in all the guys that are the best in baseball. That's what I think. So we made our own Hall of Fame ballots for this activity. We don't obviously get one because we are simply just not old enough to get one. It takes you 10 years to get one of being a baseball writer, and unfortunately, I was not a baseball writer at 13. I'm hand up. My bad.
That's surprising.
Yeah, my bad, everyone. But I made my own ballot. Andrew, you made your ballot. But you apparently you learned some things about the Hall of Fame. Doing some research about this. So I'd love to hear what you learned.
Yeah, never have I really did this and participated in our own little fun ballot thing. So I kind of looked into some of the rules to make sure I didn't mess it up. So first off, each voter gets 10 players. You don't have to go up to that 10, but you can go up to 10. What is that?
Is that obviously these bastards?
You can go up to 10 voters. So that was rule number one. You need this. I didn't know. You need 75% of the votes to get in. Anything short of that will not allow you in. You have 10 years to get in, and if you don't make it in within the 10-year mark, you get moved on to the Veterans Committee that meets every so often, and not every year, but they meet every few years, and then they take a look at everything, and sometimes you get voted in that way, which we've seen in the past from players. Which honestly, you might see some of these guys. For those who don't know, Bonds, Clemens, and Kurt Schilling were all on their 9th season. So next year will be their 10th and final season on the ballot. And maybe the Veterans Committee will see things different, which would not shock me at all. So that's that. And the last thing, really that I took to note was if you don't get 5% of the votes, you are removed from the ballot the following year. If you get 5%, you just survive and stay in it, as we saw some other guys do before. Most recently, Bobby Bray, our favorite, had 5.5% last year, so he was able to survive. And
this year, baby, let's go. We're
what was
going.
that?
Or he's up to 8 this year.
Exactly, he moved up to 8%. So that's all that matters is you keep going up. So I think I think those were some of the big things there. And again, I think, and then what they do is you have the Baseball Writers Association of America are the ones who are voting and taking place into this. For those who do not know, that is how it's done before the Veterans Committee takes over. Once the veteran players move on, I will say I think, and this was another big thing, not necessarily from the rules I was reading over, but while listening to the committee or to them speak on OE Network today, is there were actually some people that send in blank ballots because they don't I guess agree with anyone voting on there. And I was listening to the show today, and they said 14 blank ballots were submitted, which is a new record for the Hall of Fame. The previous record was 12 a few years ago, I believe. But yeah, 14 now holds the record, as the words they used on the show was the protest of steroid guy getting in Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, and the future of that, and along with Curt Schilling. So that's why they left blank ballots, according to MLB Network.
Preston Ekdahl puts it well. This is why baseball is behind, Andrew.
I don't know if it's necessarily behind. I think it's more that's the way that baseball is. They hold them all to higher standards. It's kind of the way it's always been, and that's why you still don't have key guys in the Hall of Fame. If you want to make the Hall of Fame, don't cheat the game.
No.
Simple as that.
It's not really that simple, apparently. It's really not that simple. Being good at baseball does not get you in the museum of good baseball players. Who would have thought?
That's not true. Being good at baseball does get you.
No, it's not. If
not making a mess of the rest of
the case, then Barry Bonds would have been first ballot, no problem.
He would have been if he didn't cheat.
You know? Hey, Andrew, I just like to say, Andrew, that it's very interesting where we draw the line. You know, Babe Ruth did not play with any black players in his league, and you know, who would if Satchel Paige would have probably thrown 3 straight by him and wouldn't have touched it, and we'll never know. The first generation of baseball players did not play in an integrated sport, and you know they're all in there. So we don't take that into account, and just find it interesting.
But that's different. That's not cheating the game. That's playing against what you were playing against. Yeah, that's just a competition that was
using steroids back then. That baseball didn't test for it. So what do you want me to do? If baseball cared, they would have started testing for it. So
they did start testing. That's why they do care. They started testing for it.
2004, and they did all that stuff before they started testing for it. So, Andrew, let's get into our ballots real fast. This is like we said, this is probably where our opinions divert the most here. I'll start off. I decided to fill out the full 10. Some people I don't feel as great about putting on the ballot, but we'll see here. Let me go through this, and we will talk about all the things going around and this. Sammy, we'll get to your question here in a second. My ballot. I have Curt Schilling making it. I have Barry Bonds. I have Roger Clemens. I have Sammy Sosa, Todd Helton, Manny Ramirez, Billy Wagner, Jeff Kent, and I have Scott, the defensive wizard, rolling on there too.
I'm glad you changed your mind there.
I decided to put it on there. I was gonna have you make the case and convince me, and it'd be a whole thing where I write his name down and I put him in our fake Hall of Fame, but I decided to put him in there, no fuss. What about you, Andrew? Who's your Hall of Fame vote right now?
My Hall of Fame vote right now is Scott Rowland. This is obviously no order. Scott Rowland. I have Todd Helton, Billy Wagner, Gary Sheffield, Jeff Kent.
Okay, what? Sorry. Go ahead. Continue. Go ahead.
No. I want to hear what first.
I just think it's funny. You just like anti-steroid guys, but Gary Sheffield, yes, sir. Put him in.
He did take steroids.
Oh, my. Andrew, he for sure did. I'm telling you, there is no doubt in my mind Gary Sheffield, steroid guy.
Show me the article.
All right, go ahead. Continue with your ballot.
Oh, show me where did Gary Sheffield? I looked it up. Where did Gary Sheffield take steroids?
Oh, I'll look it up. Hey, I'll look it up right now. So go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Where was I at? I said Billy Wagner, Gary Sheffield, Scott Rowland, Jeff Kent, Todd Helton. Who else did I miss?
I don't know. It's your
All right,
list.
that's all. That's all I have marked down.
Yeah, of course. This is your list.
Yeah, that's all.
Uh,
So no. Bobby Bray.
okay,
I
Bobby.
was part of that 3% jump.
Okay, okay, sure. Bobby Bray on the list. I'm happy to hear it. I didn't have enough room for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's one of the few players with as many stolen bases as he has in home runs.
All right, good for him. By the way, immediately, if you look up Gary Sheffield steroids, there's like 6 articles that come up.
It was never.
New York Yankees outfielder Gary Sheffield admitted to using testosterone-based steroids supplied by Balco after being introduced to Burlington game base by Barry Bonds. So we're putting steroid guys in now. Andrew has made a full one.
No, he's off the list then.
He put a full 180. Gary Sheffield.
No, Gary Sheffield is off the list then.
Mike Piazza, they're all in. I love it. So I'm glad.
No, Gary Sheffield's steroid case doesn't hold up.
Hey,
Sports Illustrated.
We could do this about Barry Bonds too. We could do it about Roger Clemens. We could do it about all these guys. They never had a positive test. They were just on this.
Fine, Gary Sheffield is off the list then.
So this is what we're doing. You're fumbling your own case right now.
No, according to the Sports Illustrated article.
Okay, so I would like to hear, your reasoning. I feel like you're in the minority now, Andrew.
That's fine. That's the way it usually is. 1 and 2. They call me old school all the time. They call me the old man of the group. So it's just proven even more now.
So I'd love to hear it, Andrew. 71% of people voted for Kurt Schilling. 68% of people voted for Bonds and Clemens. Why would you not be a part of that percentage?
Because as a Hall of Famer, you hold the higher standards. You're supposed to perform at a high level on the field and off the field. I truly believe that. I think the Hall of Fame is to recognize the great ones and also supposed to be players to look up to. And that's what I think baseball gets right, is they don't want people looking up and saying that guy cheated the game, that guy broke the integrity of the game, that guy has issues with the law, that guy is seen as this way. And I think that's what baseball's trying to avoid, and they continue to avoid that. And I have no issues with it. If you want to make the Hall of Fame, don't cheat the game. If you'd rather have all those records, and the things I hear is right, is Bonds. It's like you break the record book because it's not as accurate as stats anymore. I mean, before he started taking steroids, he wasn't hitting all those home runs. Yes, he was a fantastic player, but he wasn't still hitting all those home runs every season. He would have made the Hall of Fame regardless, in a different way for how good he was before the steroids. But that's why people view it as breaking the game and making fake records, because of how that's viewed and everything. So I think that really hurts the game, and you see it with all these guys. And now, like you said, Kurt Schilling gets to 71%, but I think he missed it by 16 votes, I read. So obviously I'm interested to see how and we'll get into Sam's question here in a little bit, but I would have been interested to see how he would have faltered next year, because some of the stuff he did on Twitter with all the recent news came after the voting. So it would have been interesting to see how next year honestly would have been affected, because I think he might have seen a little decrease because of the way he's been acting lately. But obviously, with what he said now after the voting, is he probably won't be there next year, so we probably won't find that out. But
let's get into that question now, actually, Andrew. Sam asked, Schilling went ahead and put out a statement, a letter, I guess, on Facebook, because he is that guy that's still using Facebook. He basically came out and said that he wanted to be taken off the ballot, after his last year off the ballot, his 10th year, and he wanted to go straight to the Veterans Committee because, quote, they're in the actual position to judge a player, so on and so forth. You can look up his full quote online. It's probably going around right now. I personally, I was thinking going both ways with this, Andrew. You said it well. He had his tweets recently about the Capitol storming, and I'm pretty sure he was for it. If Kurt Schilling was given the Twitter just ban right after he came off the baseball field, he would be a slam dunk no doubt about it, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, should have been in a few years ago.
It would have been, yeah, no question. Probably would have been first ballot. But he, as the guys on MLB Network said, he talked his way out of this Hall of Fame position. And I think you could be definitely right, Andrew, because I saw many stories where there were people like trying to lobby the MLB or the Hall of Fame committee to get them to change their votes after what he said about the Capitol storming. So I think he definitely could have lost a couple of votes, maybe would have went down in percentages this next year. But
yeah, I think that's part of why he made that decision, because I think he knows that. That's why if he wants to be taken off, go for it. That doesn't hurt me at all. I'm sure the voters don't care at all. If he truly believes he's going to get in through the Veterans Committee, then take the year off. I have no issues with it. To me, it proves the committee right even more, honestly, by taking yourself off the ballot. Because it shows me more that you can't handle not being in there like that. And you've seen this issues elsewhere. I know he eventually got into the Hall of Fame, but that's why it took Terrell Owens in football a couple years to get in, because of his off the field stuff and locker room ways. That's why he ended up not even going to the NFL. He did his speech in a whole different. I forget what school he went to, but he did it at whatever school he was at.
Yeah, but all of T.O.'s stuff actually directly affected his team. All of Kurt Schilling's stuff has been literally out of his career, like hasn't even affected his teammates. You don't talk politics in a baseball locker room. I don't know if you know this, Andrew, especially back then. So I don't think.
But that's my point. Is they take all that into consideration.
They shouldn't. That's the issue. They definitely shouldn't. It's a baseball. This is a baseball museum where you go and find out the story of baseball, and you cannot tell the story of baseball without Barry Bonds, Kurt Schilling, Roger Clemens. You can't tell the story of baseball without those guys. You just can't.
Well, you're not wrong, but here I heard something good on MLB Network coming on the show was baseball. It's the Hall of Fame isn't meant to be a story guide by guide, year by year. If you're going to the Baseball Hall of Fame, you already know the story. You're going to see the recognized guys that are honored. And that's why if you want to create maybe a steroid room or something like that, I guess I lean toward that way. But listen, you even said on the last show, Hank Aaron is known as the home run king because he's known for not taking steroids. There's a reason why these guys are viewed that way.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a reason. They will always have that, that cloud hanging over them. I mean, I'm definitely for. I don't think they could be in the Hall of Fame without like something. Their plaque can't say Barry Bonds, great guy, hit a bunch of home runs, did it the right way the whole time. That can't be Barry Bonds' plaque because that's not his story. You have to have on all of these guys' plaques. Did all this, blah blah blah, broke the home run total. However, at the end of his career or during his career, he was alleged to have taken performance-enhancing drugs. Blah 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 blah. Yada yada yada. That's what it should be. And I think that the Baseball Hall of Fame is a place where you can learn the game. I mean, there's probably hundreds of little kids, in New York, since New York's obviously cooler than Philadelphia and Texas and Virginia. You probably took a Hall of Fame. Field trips. I'd love to go to the Hall of Fame as a field trip for as an elementary school kid. That'd be awesome. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. And those kids are learning the game of baseball. And if you put a Roger Clemens, a Barry Bonds, I don't know about a Kurt Schilling. Like I said, I have mixed feelings about Kurt. But if you put
that is exactly why they're not putting these guys in. They don't want little kids going to the Hall of Fame going, oh, this guy did it by cheating the game. This guy did it by taking steroids. This guy did all this bad stuff off the field, and they're going to put them in honor. And then you're going to have second and third graders go into the Hall of Fame and seeing all that, and that's just encouraging them to do that. That's why these guys aren't going in the Hall of Fame.
But it's also encouraging that's saying that people aren't just good and bad. Kurt Schilling, for everything that he did on the field, he's muddying it up with the stuff on the off the field. He's not like a terrible human being and all this good stuff. Barry Bonds did steroids allegedly, sure, but he's not a terrible human being. He still did all of this stuff. He still grew the game. Baseball still used him to market their sport and push all these home runs and stuff like that. Same thing with McGwire and so they all help the sport of baseball. Were they all these guys great guys? No. Ty Cobb's a legendary asshole, legendary racist figure in baseball that is in the Hall of Fame is it Ty Cobb? I thought Ty Cobb was in the Hall of Fame. I might be questioning.
I'm pretty sure Ty Cobb's in the
Yeah,
Hall
I
of
thought
Fame.
I don't know. I might get Shoeless Joe and fucking Ty Cobb mixed up.
Shoeless Joe was part of that White Sox scandal back in
Yeah.
was it 1919 or something like that?
So moving on, but Ty Cobb, legendary. He's openly racist guy. Apparently, he was in the KKK with his Hall of Fame buddy Tris Speaker, another guy who I think there's a Red Sox prospect, by the way, named Tris Speaker, which is awkward. But there's a New York Times article where you can just look. You can just Google literally racist baseball Hall of Famers, and you'll come up to an article where you can read about Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker being racist Ku Klux Klan members that are in the Hall of Fame today. That's not going to be on their Hall of Fame thing. That they were not going to have. Oh, here's an addendum. Ty Cobb, probably racist, probably in the Ku Klux Klan. Who knows? But if those kind of guys are in the Hall of Fame, if we're going to let Mike Piazza, another guy who is alleged to have steroids, he was really the first one that we were all like, oh, so it's like that. We're going to put him in. All right. Well, I mean, this is what we should be. I mean, this is a baseball museum to teach people about the story of baseball, and potentially the greatest hitter of all time should be in the Hall of Fame, along with one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
See, part of that, the issue with part of it, whether you agree with it or not, part of the issue is when it's all happening. And it wasn't all the same voting back then it is now. Obviously, you have different voters and everything what happens in that way. So, like in 10 years from now, the next generation of voters, whoever that's going to become, they're going to view steroids as a whole different thing. And honestly, you'll probably have steroid guys in the Hall of Fame in 10 years because of the way they're viewed. Like, and 10 years from now, I don't know, whoever's voting, like I could see, I don't know his exact numbers off the top of my head, but one of the biggest ones of our generation, obviously, in 10 years from now would be Ryan Braun. He would probably have an argument and might get in from there.
I think a better thing is A-Rod. Because you mentioned
he's hated. He was hated on the field and off the field.
Yes, that is very accurate. But statistically, if you look at his resume, he is one of the greatest shortstops / third baseman ever. And I don't like saying this, but he's one of those guys hated on and off the field. But if you put him on that ballot, and in 10 years, because obviously, as you can tell, it's a little generational when it comes to the steroid use. The younger generation is starting to be more. I don't know what the word for it is.
Okay with it.
They're starting to be more a little sympathetic towards the guy that use it and they understand. But, it's just one of those things. I think as time goes on, I think the younger generation will take over those votes, and I think those guys will be in it. A-Rod, I think, will actually get in. It will take time. But I think, he's also one of those steroids guys. He actually got suspended for it a couple times, too. Shout out to Manny Ramirez, who also got suspended for it a couple times. But he's on there, too. So.
Yeah. See, I think the issue they're going to run into in, I don't know, to say 10, 15 years again. I'm interested where you view on this point. Not necessarily steroids, but still cheating, is when all the Astros guys start to retire. That's when they're going to run into another real issue with it. How do you let George Springer and Jose Altuve, how do you let those guys in because of the cheating they actually did? Because I will say this, that's a lot worse than steroids. I will fully admit to that.
Yeah, and baseball,
what they did is a lot worse than the steroids. So if, as someone who's saying the steroid guys shouldn't get in, I also believe those guys shouldn't get in. And that's where they're going to really run into an issue is if say they vote Jose Altuve into the Hall of Fame, but they still leave guys like A-Rod off and all those guys. And how do they justify that? And that's where you're really going to become into a huge issue. And I'm interested to see how they handle that whole thing. Yeah. And that's going to be – we'll see what happens. But I don't know how you take that, but –
no, yeah, I agree with you. It is definitely worse than doing steroids. So many baseball players come out and say it all the time. Well, they said it all the time back then when they were talking about it, I guess. No one talks about it anymore. But they said it was worse than steroids. You could give – if Barry Bonds would – I think Barry Bonds actually came out and said this too. Barry Bonds, steroids versus knowing your pitch, I think he'd rather know what pitch you're coming because it'd just be much easier. Steroids can only do so much. Steroids don't help you make contact with the ball, unfortunately. Steroids just help make you a little bit stronger. They make that ball that goes 120 feet, maybe go 130, 140 feet. So, I definitely would rather have the steroids though. If I was a pitcher, I'd rather have guys doing steroids than knowing what I'm coming with. Andrew, so I think that's enough of the Hall of Fame talk. I think we got a good 25 minutes in there. I'm glad that we got it in there. Sam wants to chime in real fast. Do you think it's weird Bud Selig got in so easily despite having the steroid era happen? Of course, that's what it is, Sam. Guy overlooking all of this that made all the brew the game using the back of all these players gets in automatically. Why wouldn't he?
It's hypocritical for them to do that, but I'm not surprised that they put him in, if that makes sense. Because overall for the game, the longevity of his career as the commissioner, 1, 2, I did kind of bring baseball back on the map and get them more money. So from
I don't know if he did it. Hey, Def, I don't know if he did it. You know who did it? Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire, Barry Bonds.
No. My point. Okay, I mean that's the wrong word choice, but it happened under him. Is my point.
Yeah. He was the beneficiary of all of it.
Yes. So I can tell you, he's not going in the Hall of Fame. Is Rob Manfred?
No, I guarantee you, Rob Manfred gets in the Hall of Fame. Is there any baseball commissioner? Andrew, can you do some research? Just look up if there's any baseball commissioners that aren't in the Hall of Fame. I feel like every baseball commissioner has to get in the Hall of Fame, but we'll see. While you do that, Andrew, let's move on to some signings real fast so we can end the show. Shout out to Got the Itch. Thank you for watching. The Blue Jays going to win this year? His question is, and I'm sure he's asking that because he just saw the news of Marcus Semien, the shortstop, probably going to go ahead and transition to second base if I had to guess. But the second baseman, the shortstop, goes from Oakland, gets his 1 year, $18 million bag to go up north to Toronto. They're building a squad up there. They're one of the 3 teams that wants to spend money this offseason, Andrew. I know you're a fan of Marcus Semien. I like his talent. I would have liked him at second base. Are the Blue Jays going to win this year, Andrew? That's what the question is.
Win it all. I'm going to say no. Win the AL East. We'll give our final predictions in a while, but I think they're right there for the AL East title. I don't know what the odds are, but that is not a bad play, especially right now, because I'm sure they're not. I'm sure the odds right now are pretty in favor of Blue Jays. So I'd say anything early right now, I would not be afraid to do that because I think the risk on that one could be a high reward.
Yeah, I like the Blue Jays right now too, especially to win the AL East. Maybe not the World Series. We got to see. There's so many free agents that are not signed, so we'll see. Hey, Andrew.
What's that?
Did the Phillies sign someone?
Oh, maybe. Big Ivan Nova sign, right?
Ivan Nova back in the league? Oh my God, let's talk about it. His days when he was on the Yankees, I didn't like him. He was trash. And then he went to the Pirates, I believe, and it became still trash. No, we're going to talk about it, Andrew. The Phillies did it, damn it. They signed.
Finally. Finally.
We've come all this way. You got your man back. How are the negotiations, Andrew? What did you say to JT Realmuto to get him to stay in Philadelphia?
When I said he was from Oklahoma last week, you inspired me to go drive up and meet him. So, that's what I did, of course.
Yeah, I said it. I said, why aren't you doing negotiations? And now, finally, they got you. And here we are. Look, results.
Hey, results happen, right?
Yeah. Love it.
No, I'm thrilled that the deal finally got done. I think listen, I still would say it doesn't happen if Clentak was still in charge in that group. So I think the big switch there was the big thing here because I think he started losing trust. And I think that's what you saw at the end of last year. And I think then making the moves to bring in the front office they did kind of was able to rejuvenate some of that stuff. And he saw what it meant to them from them flying down, from the negotiations finally starting pretty quickly since they got hired. I think that made a big difference in his head. The initial offer of 5 years, $110 million, as we talked about last week, I think just wasn't enough to tie it. So, and maybe it was the reports about the Braves coming in too. They kind of upped it just $1 million per year. So the final deal was 5 years for $115.5 million. So it makes him the highest paid catcher per year. And I think that's ultimately what he wanted. And I mean, I think his agent did some pretty good work, but I'm happy and thrilled he's back. And hey, it's a big step forward for this Phillies team, and it could make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, it's a declaration of intent for the Phillies. It is a declaration. Dave Dombrowski's here. We want to win baseball games. Let's go sign our best player, arguably a player that has attracted other players to come here. a player that our other best player arguably has worn his jersey and asked for him to get re-signed all year. It's a great time to be from Philadelphia, Andrew.
It is. Hey,
Yeah, let's say you got a new basketball coach that's coming in here doing things. Your star player's finally in shape for once in his life. The Eagles have a new coach. Man, what a time, Andrew.
hopefully that works out. Real quick. To answer the question, there have been 10. Well, that's actually surprising too. There've only been 10 total commissioners in the history of baseball. Or it says 1921, I guess it says. I guess when they started keeping track. But since then, only 5 of those 10 are in the Hall of Fame.
Wow, who are they?
They are.
Bud?
We got. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, but back in 1920 to 1944, Kennesaw Mountain Landis
Yeah,
was
Kennesaw
elected.
Mountain Landis. Yeah, we all know about Big Kennesaw.
Elected 1944. Ford Frick, elected in 1970. Happy Chandler, elected in 1982.
The Hap Man.
Bowie Kuhn, elected in 2008. And then, of course, Bud Selig, elected in 2016.
Oh, interesting. Well, congratulations, Bud Selig. All right, Andrew. I think that's about it. I'm glad that we talked about your Phillies a little bit. We will talk about them more later. When you still need more free agency signings, it's happy to see that teams actually want to win baseball games, Andrew. That is a great.
Is that a shot at your team? Just curious.
No, Mike.
No.
We sign people. Shout out to my boy Kike Hernandez. Love that. Shout out to my boy Martin Perez.
Oh yeah, big trade with the rival too.
Yeah, shout out to my guy. My guy Adam Ottavino. It kind of hurts me to say that. I like him. He's good. We'll see. Shout out to them. Shout out to Kind Bloom. But yeah, we'll get back to it, Andrew. I think we're gonna do another episode this week. We're gonna do another episode on Friday this week. We're gonna do one. We're gonna do I believe second base goat show, right?
We're on second base. Yeah, it's been a little while since we did the goat, so I was trying to think where we're at.
We're on second base. Yes.
We're all on second base.
Yes, we're on second base. Sam, we in fact did do. I did laugh about MLB Net. We're doing a 4-hour show for no Hall of Famers. So good job by the MLB. Thank you, baseball, for as always growing the game. We'll talk next week about MLB Players Union rejecting the expanded playoffs and no DH deal. Talk about that next week. It's going to be a great time. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you at?
People can find me at AJ_Santangelo. If you want to find me on any of my other podcasts, you can check out Chasing the Pennant podcast at ANYP. Phillies on Twitter is the Twitter handle, True_Philly Sport and Philly_Sports Now. And of course, here at Pub Sports Radio.
Awesome. And of course, if you're watching us, go check out our sponsor, Built Bars, BuiltBars.com. Go put in promo code PubSports for 20% off your first purchase. Go get that little chocolate chip in there, a little peanut butter in there. Get some gains, get some Built Bars inside of you. Go look like JT Realmuto's and go hit dingers like JT Realmuto. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back on Friday for Goat Talk. Till then, everyone, we'll catch you later.